Okay, what's up? Welcome to the 45-day challenge. This is session 3, mindset 3. So excited you guys are here and involved to change your life and to change your mind and to come into a new space. Just a few housekeeping things. You should be keeping up a food log and a meal plan. If you've seen any of my messages, one of the things you will see circulating consistently is if you fail to plan, plan to fail. And so that means that with your meals, if you're not taking in the right things, if you're not sticking to the golden rules, it's because essentially you're not planning. And so you're going to have to plan. So I just want to encourage you, make sure you keep up with your meal plan. Also, your food log, which is essentially what you actually did. This is what you share with your partner. The meal plan is your strategy and that your tactic. The food log is what you actually did. And this is what you need to share with your partner. This is where much of the 12 steps and conversations with your partner come in, where you share your ups, your downs. Where are you in these different things? And why are you the way you are? Okay. So that's one housekeeping thing. The other thing is if you have not already, we are coming up to do our progress picks. This is one of my favorite pieces of the 45-day transformation challenge is we need to check in, and I want to make sure you're able to check in. And so taking a progress pick, or where you are in comparison to where you were is very essential. And so you want to send that to your partner. You also want to send it to your coach so that I can know where you are and how many pounds you lost and kind of where you are in this program. If we need to adjust or make any changes. The last thing that I would say is by way of housekeeping is exercise. Many times we will get to spaces where we're meal planning and we're doing a lot of the foods, but we're not doing a lot of exercise. And so I want to encourage you that exercising needs to be a regular part of your regimen. It has to be something that's planned and scheduled, but also want to encourage you to keep it fun. Do things that you enjoy, do things that stretch you, do things that gain you muscle, but make sure that that is a regular part of this thing, okay? Good. So last week we talked about this idea that not only do we have a relationship, right, to people, but we have a relationship to food. And I talked about the impact, whether good or bad, of our relationship with food and the ways we need to think about it. Think about it from a traditional perspective, thinking about it from a microbiological perspective. But this week, what I'd like to introduce is not only do we have a relationship with food, but we have it with our past and with our mind, right? Mental health is this word that is growing over and over in culture and is buzzing consistently, and it's fairly new at this point in time. This is 2019. And so people are very much more aware of this idea of mental health, right? And though that we have a lot of conversation around mental health, there's a lot of ignorance, right? There's a lot of things that we just kind of do with no understanding that still have impact on our mental health, right? One of my favorite illustrations to kind of describe this comes with a man who wanted to go swim in a lake, okay? So this guy gets his trunks on and he's drove to the lake and he's about to go jump in the water. And as he's driving, as he's running over towards the water, to the edge of the water, he gets close. And as he gets almost to the edge, he slows and he thinks, oh my gosh, I don't know what the water feels like, right? And as he's walking up to the edge, he sees this fish going by, kind of swimming, bloop, bloop, bloop. And he says, hey, how's the water, right? The fish looks up, confused, turns back and says to him, what's water? And keeps swimming, right? What water is to a fish is what mental health or undiagnosed or unprocessed trauma is to a human being. Think about it, right? And you can answer this question in your head. Does a fish know it's wet? No. A fish doesn't know it's wet. Why? Because its only existence has always been in water. It's never known anything else but water, right? What water is to a fish, its only existence, never know anything else, is what trauma is to a person that's never taken the time out to process their story, their narrative, their background, who they are, and how the events of their life have shaped them, right? And so we are talking about mental health because oftentimes we're talking about getting healthy and creating transformation. And we're very limited. We limit things to our bodies and we say, okay, what are the things I need to eat? What are the things I need to fuel? What are the ways I need to work out? We never talk about how our mind is essential to the way we work out, the way we eat, how we relate to others, and how we overall experience the world, right? And many times our mental health or the lack thereof health in that area can be impacting every aspect of our lives and we not even know it, okay? I'm going to give you guys a very transparent story about myself. At the age of 6 years old, myself, I have a younger brother, a younger sister. I'm the oldest of three. And my parents, we were living in this one-bedroom apartment in Dallas. And the kids in this apartment, we were on the second floor. The kids in this apartment, again, because there were not a ton of resources there, would just kind of make up random games, right? One of the random games that the kids would make up was there was two kind of sides down exits to the stairs up on the second floor. And so what would happen is kids would run all the way over on top, run down on the bottom, run across the front of the rail, go back up the top of the stairs, get to the stairs themselves, and then at the bars, right? Remember, like firefighters, there's a bar right beneath. They would shimmy in between the poles, hold on, and slide down as if they were answering an emergency call, right? And so I would do it as well. I would run around, run up, shimmy through the bars, right? Hold on and slide down like a firefighter, okay? Well, my younger brother ran, just like all the other kids, up the stairs, over the thing, went through the rail to shimmy, and he got stuck. And he held on, okay? Well, I forgot to mention a very important fact, right? All the other young men and women there were upwards to 12, 13 years old. I was 6 at the time. I was a little bit more advanced. My brother was 2 years old, okay? And as he hung dangling over the second story of a building, I remember running over to him and just grabbing him, holding him tightly, okay? And to this day, I remember asking, saying like, was it that bad? Was it that bad of an incident? Was I just exaggerating, right? But as I was holding on to him as he's dangling over the side of this rail, true story, people began to gather below, adults, and they started saying, drop him, we'll catch him, right? And I just remember thinking to myself, there is no way in hell I'm about to let go of my baby brother, drop to the ground over this second story apartment, right? Sister runs in, she gets my parents. Because I didn't have the strength to pull them up, they come out and pull them up. I think the incident is over, right? As time went on, though, right, I've had a series of incidents that have happened in my life because what I learned in that moment at the age of 6 was this, that if I don't act, someone will die, right? At the age of 16, I was given the opportunity to work and serve in a different job capacity. And that job capacity would entail that I would work as a lifeguard. That means I would be splashing around and saving people, right? And immediately I broke into tears, which what was supposed to be this joyous moment of an upgrade, an opportunity, sent me to tears. Why? Because I thought to myself quietly, if I don't act, someone can what? Die, right? Fast forward, lastly, my brother is walking down the aisle to his wedding. True story. And he is about 27, 28 years old. And as he's walking down the aisle, and I'm standing there as a groomsman in his bridal party, I just break down and start weeping uncontrollably, right? I'm pretty sure they probably thought this was the greatest dress, this was the greatest thing. And here's what I thought to myself quietly. I thought to myself quietly, I almost let you die, right? Why does that matter? It matters because whether we like it or not, the things that have happened in our past, if we have not processed them soberly, they are absolutely affecting our present, right? Think about it. These moments that have just happened, that moment at 6 years old had followed me quietly all the way into my adulthood. And whether I knew it or not, I've always had this thing playing in the background of an incident that took no less than, 5 minutes, right? And here's what I want to say to you. It's because your mental health matters. You processing your story matters. You understanding how your past is plaguing your present matters. And those who choose not to process their past because of the pain is like a fish that doesn't know it's wet, right? And so this idea of mental health and what happens is truly important. How does the brain work? Okay. I don't want to get too deep into this. I just want to kind of make something, because I know we talk about this, how the brain is important. I'll just tell you why the brain is important. The brain is important because it houses the soul and it controls the body. Everything in your brain, it's this computer, and it actually runs everything in your life. Okay. So we kind of need to know how the brain works. Otherwise, we don't know how we work, right? There's two things I want to talk about in terms of brain. And it's a thing called the hippocampus, and it's called the amygdala or the limbic brain. Okay, I'll make it very simple. Okay, so think of a file cabinet with a folder. Okay, if you create a new entry, you put it in a folder, you open up the file cabinet, and you drop it in. That's what a memory is in your hippocampus. When you do something new, your hippocampus, you close it, you close that new thing up, put it in a folder, and you drop it in your hippocampus. Close it, right? The limbic brain or the amygdala is the emotion that's attached to that file. So case in point. So I want you to imagine eating a lime, very sour lime. And think about that lime coming to your mouth. And you know that lime is extremely sour, right? What is your mouth starting to do without you even attempting? It's starting to do what? Salivate. Why? Because your brain sees this file and the emotion that the amygdala has attached to it tells your brain to now respond with salivation, okay? So it's like this computer. So just think, it's what you do and then it's what you feel, okay? That's all it is. I don't want to make it any more traumatic than what it is, right? Well, here's what happens when we don't deal with trauma. When we try to avoid these things in our past that have hurt us, whether we're conscious or unconscious with them, even though you have blocked out the memory and you don't fully remember what happened, your brain, when it sees that thing, it still operates with the same level of panic, anxiety, fear, and pain that it did when it happened, right? And here's the thing, is that oftentimes when we feel pain, will run to pleasure. And again, remember, you are not processing this in a conscious way. It's an unconscious thing. And so when you see it, it's pain, and now you need pleasure. And what are some ways that we give ourselves pleasures? Food, sex, drugs, and escape, right? And I want to make this point here, right? Is that some of the ways that we are avoiding a difficult conversation with our mental health is by coping with the pleasure of good food, right? That there's things in our life that need to heal, and there's things in our life that need to transform, and there's things in our life that need to be renewed, but they can't be, because every time we feel that pain, instead of dealing with it and unearthing something that's deeper, we say, let me go get a cheeseburger. Let me go get my favorite snack. Let me get some Oreos. Let me get something that like tastes good. And what we say is, I feel pain unconsciously and I need pleasure, right? Or your brain wants to heal. The brain wants to grow past that. And what we're attempting to do in this 45-day transformation challenge, even though we may not get to the totality of what you need to heal, is to move you from a place where you unconsciously cope with trauma to where you cognitively and consciously say, no, I know what to do with this. I can deal with this, and I'm going to go through the process so that I can heal. And I'm no longer relying on some type of substance in order to mask the pain, right? One of the things that happened as a result in my own life is that, you know, this idea of dealing with the trauma, right? Not running to try to help people, not trying to be, you know, this inspiring person and do all these things. There came a point where things would come up, that visual, something dangerous, that emotion, amygdala, I should act and someone could die, right? But as I began to heal that file, here's what started to happen. I started to say to myself, yes, someone could die, but the only person that holds life in their hand is the Creator himself. Yes, this is true. People can die and they can hurt and they can lose, but I am not fully responsible for the life and death of human beings, right? And here's what I want to encourage you is that your brain can heal, that no matter what's happened in your life, you can heal. And it doesn't mean that those things disappear. It means that now we can function moving away from this unconscious way of living and thinking to a very conscious way of healing and not just surviving, but thriving, right? It's a process in the neurological world called neuroplasticity. It might be too much for you, but it just basically means this: your brain can heal. You know, like your baby can read, or your brain can heal, right? And that's a good news for someone, right? Let me talk to you about the healing process. How do we get our brains to heal? Okay, I know this is a lot. And thank you guys for tuning in to the 45-day transformation challenge. But the first way that we get our brains to heal is we have to admit it, right? That we are no good pretending that things did not happen. And what I share with people is this, is that you don't have to admit every trauma, but you do need to be honest about the most obvious trauma in your life, right? You have to begin to admit the truth about that thing. Second thing that we do to heal our brains and begin the growth of healing our mental health is we have to grieve it, right? You'll hear me talk about this more and more, but the ability to know your emotions and to go through the pain and the uncertainty of what this feels like is that I'm not going to be in denial. I'm not going to say, well, I was young and, they didn't know no better and I shouldn't go through this. I will allow myself to go through the range of emotions freely. I'm not trying to stop myself. I need to tell somebody today who loves to mask their feelings the moment they come up that you're not healing. That part of your healing is you grieving the reality that did happen, and that all of the emotions and allowing all the emotions to come as a result, right? The third thing, how do we heal our brains? Describe the consequences and the impact this thing has had in your life, right? What has been a result? Man, I have been afraid to make meaningful connections as an adult. Man, I have seen this ravage my relationship with my mother. And I have allowed this to be something that, has impacted the way I interact with my kids. What have been the tangible consequences that have come as a result of this very specific trauma, right? How do we heal our brains? How do we heal our traumas? Learn new truth, right? It's essential that we not only live in the awareness of what has happened to us, but we learn what should have happened. We learn how it should work. We begin to invest ourselves in how things are supposed to look. And so it takes us on this journey of truth that now we're living in a new truth, right? But we're not just living in a new truth. How do we heal our brains? The last thing is we begin to create new applications and new habits, right? Out of all this process of dealing with this trauma, I'm not just learning truth and grieving and talking about the consequences of what have happened. Essentially, here's what I want to do. I want to begin to practice new things, right? So case in point, if I struggle to be kind or to forgive because I have seen people abuse me in a form of trauma, part of my new application through truth, maybe when I find myself wanting to be grudgeful and not forgive, that I stop myself and I say, that person is not solely responsible. They're just as much of a victim as they are a villain, right? I do not need to indebt them to myself, right? Like, get that. It's a new application, right? Why is this important? It's important for us to care for our mental health because out of our mental health is how we express ourselves to the world and we experience the joy of life, right? And so here's what I want you to do. As you go back through, and even as you hear me say that, ask yourself, what are some things you've been running from? What are some areas of your life you have been avoiding? And then how are those things impacting you today, past, present, that really have kept you from becoming the best version of you that you're supposed to be? Okay. Make sure you check out the replay, do your homework, stay in contact with your progress partner. And I cannot wait to see your transformation mindset. Okay. Bye.